if you spend your life um, biting your tongue, keeping the peace, and basically sacrificing your own desires just to make everyone around you comfortable.
Society generally calls you a saint.
Right, exactly. You get put on a pedestal.
Hmm.
But according to the really provocative, culturally rich translated essay we're exploring today, you aren't a saint at all.
Far from it, yeah.
You are actually living a tragic, polite lie. So welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a piece by Zhu Feng titled Dancing the Tango on the Edge of Death. And our mission today is to extract the author's bold, honestly sometimes controversial instructions on how to truly live authentically.
Yeah, how to stop people-pleasing, basically.
Right, and why we should all be, dancing the tango right now.
And the author opens with this philosophical claim that immediately reframes how we view a successful life. He argues that if you have never experienced profound despair, you simply don't understand life.
Because you haven't touched the bottom.
Exactly. You haven't touched the bottom, so you can't appreciate the surface. But, and this is the crucial pivot here, if you have nearly surrendered to that despair, you don't understand life either.
So the sweet spot is where the friction is.
Yeah. The only people who truly grasp the depth of existence are those who have faced immense hardship, fought completely alone, and can somehow still laugh in the face of absolute adversity.
They've been through the meat grinder and come out smiling. Okay, let's unpack this, because dancing the tango on the edge of death is an incredibly cinematic phrase.
It really is.
But I have to admit, I'm kind of struggling to visualize this in reality. I mean, I'm just picturing someone acting recklessly, right? Maybe jumping out of airplanes or maxing out their credit cards.
It's just absolute chaos.
Right. So what does this tango actually look like in practice? Because the author gives us some very bold instructions here.
Well, to understand the choreography of this particular tango, we have to look at this really powerful metaphorical story the author uses to set the stage.
The story of Bu Hui.
Yes, Bu Hui. It revolves around a milestone in traditional Chinese culture known as the Huajia.
Which is like the 60-year glitch, as I was calling it in my notes.
That's a great way to put it. It's the completion of a sexagenary cycle, a full 60-year cycle. The essay posits that at the age of 60, you've completed this grand loop of time. And at 61, you are essentially standing right on the edge of death.
The script of your life is basically supposed to be winding down. You hit 60, and society expects you to sit in a quiet waiting room, read an old magazine, and just wait for your number to be called.
And that expectation is exactly what the author shatters with this story of the mythical villager, Bu Hui. So Bu Hui is fated to die on the exact morning of his 60th year.
It's written into the cosmic ledger.
Right. So on that fateful morning, the Grim Reaper dispatches a messenger down to collect him. The messenger arrives at Bu Hui's house, fully prepared to escort a frail old man across the Three Realms transit continent for reincarnation.
But the house is empty.
Totally empty.
So the messenger has to go track him down. He follows these footprints and finally spots Bu Hui at the foot of a mountain. Now, keep the cultural expectation of the Huajia in mind here.
Right, the waiting room.
Exactly. The messenger is looking for a typical 60-year-old at the end of his life cycle. Frail, dull-eyed, stiff-minded, maybe taking shallow breaths. But Bu Hui is practically vibrating with vitality.
He's not exactly sitting quietly.
Not at all. He's got a basket on his back, and he is picking mushrooms while singing at the top of his lungs. He is looking up into the canopy, mimicking the birdsong.
Just full of life.
He is literally racing rabbits, chasing butterflies, and picking wildflowers to tuck into his coat pocket like a joyful, innocent child.
And this is where the mechanics of Zhu Feng's philosophy really come into focus. The messenger spots Bu Hui and attempts to deliver the message of death. But the message physically bounces back.
It just deflects off him.
Yeah, it fails to penetrate him at all.
I love this detail because it makes me think of like a computer software update.
Oh, interesting. How so?
You know when your phone tries to force a new operating system update, but your hardware is completely incompatible, so it just throws a weird error code?
Oh, yeah.
The Grim Reaper is basically trying to install the death update, but Bu Hui's operating system is completely rejecting the code.
That analogy maps perfectly onto the author's concept of what he calls life's non-material structure.
Non-material structure? What does that mean exactly? Like a soul?
Think of it not just as a soul, but as the energetic frequency, the blueprint of your entire being. Over a lifetime, most people allow society to compress their non-material structure. They adopt that heavy, rigid posture of aging and resignation.
Well, Bu Hui didn't.
No, he retained his childlike heart. He completely refused to conform to the expected program of aging. Because his non-material structure was so buoyant, so misaligned with the frequency of death, the Grim Reaper's code simply could not compute.
So the messenger just throws his hands up. He goes back to the Grim Reaper and says, look, this guy is acting abnormally. The program is scrambled. I can't bring him in.
And the Grim Reaper just nods. He knows. He recognizes that Boothwee is out there dancing on the edge of death, displaying this profound, defiant love for life.
And as a reward, he gets an entirely new 60-year cycle. He gets to live to 120 just because he refused to stop playing.
What's fascinating here is how the author specifically uses the tango as the central metaphor.
Right, because a tango is not a passive, gentle waltz where you just float along.
Exactly. It requires energetic, powerful, precise, and highly passionate steps. Boothwee's vibrant vitality, his active engagement with the mountain, the rabbits, the birds.
That is the tango. It's an active rebellion against the quiet waiting room.
Yeah, but of course, Boothwee survived because he rejected the expected societal script.
Right, which leads to the question, what happens when we lean entirely into that script? And that is where the author introduces the second deeply grounded story.
It's universally relatable, but just utterly heartbreaking.
The story of the fish heads. Because living to 120 by racing rabbits sounds great, but how does this apply to ordinary people, right?
Right. So the text shifts from the mythical mountains to a very ordinary family. The essay tells the story of an elderly mother. For her entire adult life, whenever her family managed to scrape together enough money to have a meal with fish, she would always claim that her absolute favorite part of the fish was the head.
Right, so her husband and her children could eat the good fish meat.
Exactly.
And she played this role flawlessly for decades. Fast forward, she is now elderly, she falls ill, and she is hospitalized. She is literally on the edge of death now.
Her real Huajia moment.
Yeah. And her devoted children, wanting to show their profound love and respect, come to visit her in the hospital room and then bring her
a pile of fish heads.
Yes, a bunch of fish heads because they genuinely believe they are bringing their mother her favorite meal.
And lying there in the hospital bed facing the absolute end, the mother finally drops the facade. She reveals the truth to her children. She tells them, I never loved fish heads. We were poor. Someone had to eat the head, so I just said I liked it. Please just bring me some fish meat.
It's a slightly comedic image, right? A hospital tray full of fish heads. But the underlying reality is devastating.
It really is.
She spent her entire life denying herself the nourishing, enjoyable part of the meal just to keep the peace and be the good mother. But I have to push back on the author's framing here, though.
Okay, what do you mean?
Well, society builds statues to people who do what that mother did. We call that ultimate virtue. Self-sacrifice, putting your children first, ensuring your family gets the best while you take the scraps. We praise that.
We do. But the author is calling it the tragedy of a polite lie.
Right, which forces you to stop and ask yourself, what is your fish head? What is the thing you are pretending to like or pretending to be okay with just to make everyone else around you comfortable?
The author views this scenario not as virtue, but as a symptom of a humanity living under a crushing, suffocating weight of suppressed emotions. We suppress our desires, our sorrows, and our resentments.
We wear these heavy masks of politeness.
Exactly. And over time, that suppression binds us in bitterness. It compresses our non-material structure. According to the essay, that late confession in the hospital is the mother, finally, at long last, dancing her tango on the edge of death.
She finally took off the mask.
But the tragedy is that she waited until the music was almost over to start dancing.
Right. She assumed she would have a quiet deathbed to finally make that confession. But waiting until you're on your deathbed in a hospital to drop the mask is a really risky game.
It's incredibly risky.
And the author hits us with a really stark reality check here. You don't need to be 60, and you don't need to be sick in a hospital to be on the edge of death.
Because the edge of death is not an age bracket. It is the permanent condition of human existence.
Yeah.
The text points to the sheer unpredictability of life to shatter our illusion of safety. The author explicitly references the suddenness of things like illness,
Car accidents, wars.
the 9/11 attacks, and coal mine explosions. These are people who woke up on a random Tuesday, drank their coffee, and had absolutely no idea they were out of time.
We are all, at this exact second, standing on the edge. And because that vulnerability is universal, the author demands immediate action. Not tomorrow, today.
Right.
And he gives us this incredibly specific, urgent set of instructions. It starts out beautifully. If you love someone from afar, someone you think about day and night, but you've been too constrained by social rules to say anything, the author says, go to them right now.
Just tell them.
Tell them clearly, I like you so much. Send them a letter, write them an article, let them know.
It is about entirely removing the filter between your internal truth and your external expression.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Oh, yeah.
The author doesn't just want you to express the warm, fuzzy feelings. These instructions apply equally to the dark stuff.
They absolutely do.
If you hate someone, the author literally says you should go to them boldly and say, "You old fool, I hate you." He gets incredibly specific. He says if you can't say it to their face, call them on the phone.
Or send a fax.
Send a fax. Or take advantage of the internet to write an article mocking and ridiculing them, just to let the anger out of your heart.
I read that and I thought, wait a minute, isn't this just asking for absolute chaos?
It does sound a bit chaotic.
If everyone listening to this deep dive suddenly starts firing off faxes and internet blogs to their enemies saying, "I hate you," society would completely collapse by Tuesday afternoon.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it definitely sounds like a recipe for anarchy, especially when viewed through our modern lens of conflict resolution and, professional decorum.
Right.
But we have to examine the underlying mechanics of the author's philosophy impartially here. Let's return to that concept of life's non-material structure.
Okay.
The author argues that truth is the absolute prerequisite for goodness and beauty. Whether you are expressing deep admiration via fax or mocking hatred via an internet blog, the actual act of refusing to suppress your true nature is what matters.
So the content of the emotion matters less than the actual flow of the emotion. Precisely. Imagine your non-material structure as a flowing river. When you experience an emotion, even a negative one, like resentment, and you express it honestly, the river keeps flowing.
It remains clear.
Right. But when you suppress that emotion because it's not polite, you build a dam. Over time, that block water stagnates, becomes toxic. The suppression itself is the poison.
And the honest expression is the cure.
Because it aligns your non-material structure with truth. And only through truth can your structure evolve toward genuine goodness and beauty.
Okay, so if keeping the emotional pipeline clear is the cure, then what we call politeness is essentially a self-imposed sickness.
Exactly.
Which explains why the author takes an absolute sledgehammer to some deeply foundational cultural values. Because if expressing ourselves keeps us vibrant, like buhui, why do we constantly choose to eat the fish heads?
Well, the author squarely blames the glorification of traditional societal virtues. And again, just impartially exploring the text here, the critique is sweeping and very aggressive.
Very aggressive.
The essay explicitly targets well-known maxims like the beauty of restraint lies in tolerance and forbearance is a virtue. The author even rejects the phrase truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance, arguing that these are not virtues at all.
He labels them as hypocritical words.
Yeah, hypocritical constructs specifically designed to suppress human nature and maintain an artificial, superficial peace.
And the essay makes a massive historical claim to back this up. The author states that the Chinese nation has struggled in misery for 5,000 years, specifically because of this exact fake virtue of tolerance.
That's a huge claim.
Yeah. Because forbearance has been so overglorified, it has forced generations of people to live, and this is a direct quote from the text, neither like humans nor like ghosts.
That phrase, neither like humans nor like ghosts, perfectly captures the toll of this suppression.
Yeah, it really does.
If you are constantly enduring small injustices, biting your tongue and burying your true feelings to be tolerant, you aren't fully alive. You aren't experiencing the vibrant human joy of buhui.
But you weren't dead either.
No, you become a specter, haunting your own life, carrying an invisible, crushing burden of unexpressed grievances. Forbearance might have developed as a survival mechanism in highly stratified societies, but the author argues it slowly drains the life force from the population.
It's a profound indictment of endurance, because the logic is that those minor grievances don't just magically disappear when we swallow them.
Right, they accumulate behind that dam you mentioned earlier. They fester in our non-material structure until the pressure becomes unbearable.
Which brings in a famous quote the author highlights from the legendary Chinese writer Lu Sun. Either explode in silence or perish in it.
Such a powerful quote.
When a society is built on suppressing true feelings, those feel like the only two options.
Yeah.
Perishing in silence is exactly what the mother with the fish heads did. She just slowly faded away, trapped in her polite lie. And exploding in silence is what happens when someone bottles up years of resentment until they finally snap in a sudden, violent outburst.
And neither option sounds like a civilization I'd want to live in. And that is exactly why the author is proposing a third path. Neither exploding nor perishing. The tango.
So what does this all mean if we put all these pieces together? But Hui racing the rabbits, the mother's fish head confession, the daily reality of sudden mortality, and the complete rejection of silent tolerance. What is the ultimate philosophy we are supposed to walk away with?
How do we actually do this?
Yeah, how do we actually dance this tango without just ruining all our relationships?
The core thesis here is a radical reimagining of what it means to be a civilized person. We are typically taught that civilization is the suppression of our animal instincts, right?
Right. Keep it bottled up to be polite.
But the author argues that true civilization, genuine societal harmony, comes from the continuous, immediate release of pressure.
Like microdosing conflict.
Exactly, microdosing conflict. By refusing to endure small injustices and by promptly expressing our fleeting joys, our sudden angers, our loves, and our petty resentments in real time, we prevent the dam from breaking.
We prevent the volcanic explosion.
Yes. By not suppressing human nature, the author argues, society actually progresses toward civilization, rationality, and harmony.
It is about keeping the system clear. Which brings us right back to you listening to this deep dive right now. Maybe you're commuting, maybe you're at work, maybe you're doing the dishes. This essay is essentially a challenge to audit your own life for unnecessary forbearance.
Where are you practicing a false tolerance that is quietly eroding your vitality?
Are you hiding behind a mask of politeness at the cost of your own life's non-material structure? Are you eating the fish heads when you really desperately just want the fish meat?
Because the clock is ticking.
And the quiet waiting room is an illusion. Dancing the tango on the edge of death isn't about taking wild physical risks. You don't have to quit your job and move to a mountain to race rabbits.
Although that does sound kind of nice.
It does, but it's an internal rebellion. It's about discarding the mask and letting your true nature shine with the same energetic, powerful, unapologetic steps of a tango dancer. Step out onto the dance floor of your own life today, drop the polite lies, and start living. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We will catch you next time.
But as you step onto that dance floor today, consider this. This raises an important question. If a perfectly harmonious society truly requires us to instantly broadcast every raw, petty resentment and every fleeting moment of hatred we feel just to avoid a volcanic explosion.
What happens to the concept of forgiveness?
Exactly. Does true civilization come from expressing every anger without a filter? Or is there a hidden, heavier cost to living in a world where absolutely nothing is forgiven in silence? We'll leave you to chew on that.